Hey, Bobby Manning here. Welcome to the Garden Report.
Yes.
Rare appearance on the court, always a good thing. And
Back.
Celtics have won 7 straight, 14 of 18, 108-102 over the Nuggets tonight. They were down 9 at half. They introduced Derrick White to Celtics Nation, and they were thrilled when he stepped into the game.
Yeah, they were.
Roaring eruption. Everyone was surprised, too. We thought about an hour before this one that he wasn't going to play. The trade goes through. Romeo passed his physical, or whoever it was on the San Antonio side, and Derrick White was officially a Celtic. Daniel Tice doesn't play tonight, but White shows up, plays the 6-man role, closes this game, final 17 minutes, and not only helps them turn around a 9-point deficit at the half, but close on a 21-16 stretch in the final 8 minutes of this game with a final 5, Marcus Smart, Tatum, Brown, and Rob, that effectively stifled the Nuggets defense late. 42 points in the second half, just 22 or 21, I believe, in the fourth quarter. A couple of those were garbage, too. So this was dominant defense and a pretty impressive debut by White combined here.
Yeah, no question. And I think the fact that he was still in the game in that fourth quarter speaks volumes as to how valuable he is and how much he's going to mean to this team moving forward, how much he's going to mean to the core. You know, I thought Brad Stevens put it perfectly when he talked about him being a perfect fit for the best players. And obviously that means Jason Tatum. That means, Jaylen Brown. But also that means Marcus Smart. I think sort of like, hey, I can do what you do, so to speak. And Marcus is like, well, wait a minute. I'm the Marcus Smart of this team. I think that's good for this team because it strengthens the defense in the backcourt. And I think adding Daniel Tice strengthens things in the front court now. In particular tonight, you stifle Jokic. You force him to commit 9 turnovers, those defensive stops in the fourth quarter. You forced him to go into the penalty. All that was relative, Bobby. And I was a little bit worried because they were missing a lot of free throws, especially in the fourth quarter. But Marcus Smart hit a couple of big ones down the stretch. And at the end of the day, I think that's the identity of this team. We've been asking ourselves that question, and is this run for real? Can these guys keep this up? I think this is legitimate, Bobby. I think this is one of the better defensive teams in the NBA, and if they can become the best defensive team in the NBA and hold on to that moving into the postseason, I think that's going to be huge for this team and them being a dark horse in the postseason. Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but that's sort of the trajectory I see this team right now, best case scenario.
Everybody's feeling good about White now. It was a little shaky earlier. John wasn't on board. Celtics blog was like,
It's going to take a while.
Celtics blog was like, this piece could be a disaster in a piece that they ran this morning, but it looked pretty good for White. And you mentioned it, poor free throw shooting tonight. Awful three-point shooting.
Yes.
No three-point shooting at all. Tatum was off, Smart, all the rest. Brown was pretty off in the field today, and you still won in spite of all that.
Right.
And you did it by leaning in on their identity, which is essentially what that White trade is, defense.
Yes.
Pace was sensational in this off the 21 turnovers. And just an overall passing effort that was very active. There was a 5-pass possession that set up a Rob lob. Rob was great on the end of possessions there, and even though you didn't have closers, they created some secondary dribble lines there, and that's what I love about White. I think what we saw tonight and what they said out of San Antonio was pretty true. He's not like a ball-dominant point guard, but he's such a good ball mover and such a quick decision maker that he's perfect for the offense, and he fit right in no time.
Yeah, the catch and shoot. I know we talked about that in the post-game show. I mean, from one corner.
That was surprising. He wasn't supposed to do that.
Right, exactly. And again, it goes to show you maybe percentages don't tell the whole story. This is a completely different scenario, a different situation rather, and he's blended right in. Obviously, the history between him and Ime has a lot to do with that, but I think him as a player just fits what this system is about, what the culture is about. And I think he's going to be the guy that's going to be another voice in that locker room eventually and be someone to make sure that everyone's on the right page. And, you look at what this team offensively and their execution in the fourth quarter, what they used to do like 1 month ago, look at what someone like Jaylen Brown, where he's ice cold. It's about 2 minutes left to go in the game, close one. And instead of forcing the issue, he gives a heck of a bounce pass in the cut, or in the paint rather, to White for a layup. Now, White was unable to complete the 3-point play. Again, they're struggling from the free throw line, something that this team's going to have to make sure they don't do or continue to do in the fourth quarter, because I think that the defense, those extra possessions, the second chance opportunities, I think that's a big testament to what this team is doing on the defensive end. I can't stress that enough, how well this team is playing defensively and how that can really put them in a good spot on offense and position them well to finish strong.
Denver, good test. You've had pretty crap opponents the last 17 coming into this. Orlando, Detroit, shorthanded Brooklyn. This was a real deal team led by an MVP candidate in Jokic. So to stifle them was impressive. They put up some big offensive performances this year. And you finally got a bit of a barometer game here. There'll be more to come.
Yeah.
But for now, you feel good about White. Post-game, he talked about his journey here, loving being here. You can check that out on the CLNS media page. Even though it was tough to leave San Antonio, where he started his career, surprised by the move, certainly. But Brad, Ime, they both said that this was the guy that they wanted.
Yeah.
And even though I think some people were confused because this isn't a star, this isn't a guy who's going to raise to the next level like we talked about maybe a Halliburton or Jalen Brunson being, but he's a guy who fits immediately. And that's what Brad said about 15 times this morning. It was a perfect fit. And that's what you saw here tonight. Like, he didn't even look in the playbook. He watched like 2 minutes of film, and he knew where to hit Brown and Tatum in their spots. He knew where to find guys once he caught the ball, and that's what's going to make him a good player for this team going into the future. But you seem to think this team can do some special things this year.
This year, I do believe that. Honestly, Bobby, as a dark horse heading into the playoffs, we talked about the conference in general sort of cratering here with the Brooklyn Nets and the Atlanta Hawks, who were in front of the Celtics a couple of weeks ago, but all of that's changed. And you look at the rest of the landscape of the Eastern Conference, and why not? I mean, obviously, you still have to worry about the Milwaukees and the Miami Heats of the world. Those are two very tough matchups for the Celtics. And, of course, the brand new revamped Philadelphia 76ers is probably...
They'll see them on Tuesday.
That's probably my favorite, but then there you go. There's your test. I just think with the way this team is designed defensively, it's designed to help Tatum and Brown. You still have two elite scorers in those guys. And regardless of what people want to say about how they fit together or if they're too redundant in terms of how they attack, they're still capable of going off on any given night. And in the postseason, I think that's going to be a huge asset for the Boston Celtics, a huge asset when everyone's playing defensively the way they've been playing now. I feel like they're about to turn the lights off on us soon. to wrap up, again, Tatum and Brown, I feel like they're happier than ever, Bobby, and that's relevant. You can't say it's not relevant, especially when we talked about this season and going into it. It's always been about those two guys and helping those guys and giving those guys assets that are going to help defensively to put them in a good spot. And I think that's exactly what they did with the trade, with both trades, honestly. We're bringing in someone like Daniel Tice to help anchor that defense, in the front court, and someone like White who gives you a little bit of both on both ends.
I agree, and credit to Brad Stevens, a forward-facing move, giving up picks deep into the future makes me more convinced than ever that he's here for the long haul with this. And balancing, like you said, the ability, the chance to win now, which I do think they have. I'm not sure they'll be able to do it. Still having the room to make that next move, the next move into the summer, the flexibility to do that is important. And they've given themselves multiple ways to do that. Balancing all that, the hard times at the same time is tough, while also cleaning up for past mistakes, which they're still dealing with the Kemba Walker trade and everything like
honestly,
that.
I think that's also something that Celtics fans have to remember. Like, these past mistakes, they were going to bite you. These
bad draft picks, like Romeo going out the door.
Consecutive years of that, it adds up. It puts you in a spot where you really like a guy, but you're going to have to overpay because the guys that you're putting into the trade package are going to have to be attached with a couple of future firsts. And someone like Brad Stevens isn't afraid to do something like that, whereas Danny Ainge, this is the unthinkable for Danny. Can you imagine a trade like this a year ago?
He wouldn't have done it.
No chance in hell, especially this year's first and a future down the road for someone who's not, an all-star. Let's just face it. Like, that's what I think would fit the criteria. We're talking about Danny Ainge here, right? That would fit the criteria of putting in two future firsts. Yeah. Whereas Brad Stevens likes who he likes, and he's like, look, let's go for this now because we still have these two elite scorers in Tatum and Brown.
I'm Bobby Manning. He is Josue Pavon. Celtics win 108-102. They're back on Sunday for another big test with the Atlanta Hawks, who overcame this team in the fourth quarter a couple weeks ago. Tough loss. Yeah, they're going to need a bounce back there. We'll be back here as well. Super Bowl Sunday, early start, 2 o'clock. Join us for postgame at 4:30. And join the Discord server. Yes. We'll be talking there right after we record this, all night long and into the morning in my case.
You'll be there.
Yeah. All right, Celtics All Access, CLNS Media. We'll talk to you soon.